It hangs in the field. That means it is your future. For those in the room and for those perhaps listening might understand, but I will tell you, your planet is on a target, a road that has a target on it. And on this road there is something unstoppable, and that's you. There was a time when I said, humanity may do this if it chooses, and you can go back in time and hear this so many times, that you have free choice, dear ones, and if you choose to do this, then it will happen. And at this point, I will tell you, at the beginning of this year, that the snowball is rolling, and you're not going to stop it. And that snowball is white, and it's light. And it may take a little longer to get down the hill than you want. But I have seen this in other civilizations, in other planets of ascension, and some of you have been on them and recognize it, and your old souls here today, because that was the plan, that you would come back and have enough lifetimes of experience to feel it and remember it and know not to be afraid, to be part of the final battle of dark and light, which may surprise you in how it develops. But even in these last 2 days, you've seen perhaps what is going on and the hope of the future. That's why you're here. And those listening to my voice, I will say to you yet again, things are not always what they seem. I want to give you, in closing, a little parable. It's the parable of a man named Woe. He's not actually a man. He could be a woe man, but we call him a man because it's convenient and you understand it better. It's a parable that stretches the imagination of reality, and that's what parables do. In some of mine, I will take you to planets that don't exist and situations that can't happen. But there's a reason. There are things you don't realize, attributes that you do not know about that which we call light. And so to show you what I mean, I'll give you this parable. If you ask a warrior, a soldier, what it's like to fight a battle at night, they will tell you it's not often done. Night battles, and even in current wars, are often with artillery. Very seldom do they meet another soldier on the field at night. Those battles are fought during the day, you say. But sometimes they're not. And if you talk to a warrior of old, where they're only using swords on the battlefield, and you say, what is it like to fight at night? They'll look at you and they say, you don't know who's there. And it's very, very difficult. And it's horror. That's the metaphor of this planet at the moment. You're in the dark. You are still in the dark. And you're fighting battles wildly in the dark. And that's the dysfunction you see. I'll take you to a planet that's very dark. And Woe is a warrior. And he's been fighting on this planet for a very long time with a very old rusty sword. And he's been put out onto the field so many times and thought it was his last time, as he would hear noises and think he's heard shapes and swing his sword. And he had been wounded a number of times, and he was in the trench once again, ready to go out and do it again. Paint this picture, it's pretty sorrowful, pretty ugly. But the planet itself was dark, and daylight never seemed to come, and it always seemed to be battle after battle with his rusty sword. It may seem funny and perhaps a little goofy what comes next, but a little green man showed up. He spoke funny. And he said to Woe, "I have a special saber for you." And Woe said, "Really? I could use a new one because mine's so old and so rusty. Thank you." And the little green man handed him this. And it didn't look like a sword at all until they pressed a button, and out came a lightsaber. Wow. The little green man went away. Woe knew he was going to win this battle, because as soon as he turned that on, he would then be able to swipe his enemy, and he would be chief on the battlefield, and he would be winning this battle, and he wouldn't have to worry anymore. But that's not what he got. When it was time for the warriors to go on the field and they rang the bell and up they came out of the trenches, he raced out into the field and he hit that button and up came the light. What he saw around him, he didn't expect. All of the warriors that he had never seen before, he'd only heard them before, they showed up. And all around him, there was shock, as they saw not him with a saber sword, but the light that it created. And they looked around, and for the first time, they saw each other eyeball to eyeball. And they recognized they were all in shabby clothes with rusty blades, and they'd even forgotten what they were doing, and they saw each other as human beings for the first time. And collectively, without a word being spoken, while he was holding that light, they all dropped their swords and looked at each other. And almost every single one of them walked around. For the first time, they could see one another. Didn't even recognize the uniforms. Didn't even know why they were fighting. And it was the beginning of light on that planet. One man. This is a metaphor for you, as goofy as it might sound, of light where there is no light. That's what you get. You don't know how dark it is here until you see the brilliance of the wisdom that is coming. You don't see how dark it is here until someone comes along with ideas that have never been there before. And you go, why didn't we think of this before? With inventions that have never been seen before, that change not just the atmosphere of a technology, but rewrites an economy. Those are the kinds of things that happen with light. Those are the things that are hanging in the field. You've had a glimpse of them in these 2 days, of what is possible on this planet. So I will echo what my partner said earlier. Don't be afraid, because you have that saber sword. And slowly you'll understand how to create the light, what it means, and how to put it in the framework of mastery and not conflict, and how to use it so gently and so softly and so beautifully that you illuminate areas that needed illuminated and they never even knew you were there. Like the one who strikes the match in the dark room, you can't see who it is, but you see all around you. This is the future of this planet, regardless of what you're being told. This is the future of this planet, and old souls are the ones with the experience that they have who will bring it to fruition on this planet in these times. There is no accident you are here. There is no accident that you are hearing these words. Now go from this place or this recording and think about what I have said and understand who you are and how the Creator has set this up and how you have agreed to it and why you're here. In compassion and love, which are the tools of the day, I congratulate you for being here and taking the mantle of this lifetime that may change everything on the planet. I am crying in love with humanity. And so it is. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive.
Let's see if we can now suspend time as we move into a meditation and channel from Kryon. I invite you to suspend time with me now and move into a timelessness where your complete focus is feeling into a moment of gratitude that you have. In this moment, my gratitude is that our circle of 12 family have come together, helping each other with whatever issues we are facing in this moment. I have such gratitude that I have a family loving, supporting, accepting all of who I am. And let us extend that wave of love, support, and acceptance to the rest of our brothers and sisters facing whatever challenges they are going through in their moment. And let that wave of love, support, and gratitude filter out in a beautiful infinity loop that comes back to you as it is being acknowledged at a soul level of how your magnificence is feeding in and supporting the magnificence of every other precious soul that is currently living through these extraordinary transitional times on our beautiful planet. And now with gratitude, we sit back and enjoy the message coming through from Kryon.
Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. I've told you so many times, if this is the first time you've seen channeling, it may surprise you to know that that energy from the other side of the veil that speaks to you now is fully cognizant of you. Every single soul who is watching this is known by God, known and loved by God. That is the premise since the beginning of all of the channelings. We approach every single channel with the idea that this might be your first time. And so there often is a review. This particular series that we are doing now in this healing time, this healing circle, has to do with the attributes of catalytic energy to healing. In other words, an energy that would then push on the potential of healing. Something perhaps that would happen which would open a door that wasn't there before for healing. The healing that we speak of is multifaceted. If you're in fear and you walk around in fear, and perhaps you have for a long time, and there's many things to fear, it would be a healing, would it not, if you found a way not to be afraid. That would be a healing. If you're anxious about all things in your culture, in your world, in your family, if you are always anxious and you have trouble sleeping, if you found a way to negate that and make it so much better and be peaceful, that would be a healing. And then you go to that which you would commonly think of as healing. Is there a disease? Or there are aches and pains? Or there's something there that shouldn't be there? Whatever it is, even if it has no name, if you could eliminate that, that's a healing. And so these are the issues that we speak of in this series. Are there things that would pave the road, you might say, open a door, you might say, for those kinds of healings? The answer is yes. We've already given you two of them. I'm going to review the first one because this third one relates to it. Now, I'll identify this third one in just a moment. Let us review that your body, that 4D body of yours, is mostly made up of chemical reactions. And those chemical reactions are perhaps triggered by the electronic signals from your brain. But what I am talking about is you are mostly chemical. And we talked about that in the first of this series. Now, if you are listening to this and did not hear the first channel, you can find it. These are all presented together for free as a series. If you are a member of this portal, you can also find it. So this is the third one. The first one talked about that which is perhaps confusing for many of you, and that was, it enters into the cognizing or the belief of all of this, that chemistry is part of what causes all things, whether it's fear or anxiety. It also is the measure of how long you will live. And so we said that anything that you can do to change the chemistry of your own four-dimensional body, not an esoteric body, just the four-dimensional. We're talking about the reality that you experience chemically. Anything you can do to improve the chemistry paves the road for healing. I think about the history of your medicine. When they realized all of the chemical reactions that go to making things work in your body, when they saw that, the first way of healing was allopathic. If they can alter the chemistry, if they can push and pull this chemical so perhaps it won't go over here or do these things, that would then be some kind of healing. And that is what major medicine still does today. The allopathicness, the reactions that they get, that has been what you grew up with and you're used to. We spoke of the homeopathy many times in the past. It's an idea that a tincture, which is also a chemical, would send a signal instead of getting a reaction. And that signal then would be accepted by the innate. That signal would be instructions to heal. But it's still chemical, isn't it? So back to the premise. If you could change the chemistry of your body, you won't have created the chemistry of anxiety or the chemistry of fear, or worse, you would not have a chemistry which shortens your life, because fear and anxiety will shorten your life. Well, there is something that will change the chemistry that has been proven to change the chemistry. In the first series of this, we had the parable of woe, who found out that he could take charge of his own cellular structure and he could steer his ship into safe places. That was in the first one. It had to do with your control, which many of you don't even think you have. So this third one is also you controlling your chemistry, but through a completely separate perception. And now I'll give the word, and then I'm going to tell you about the research. And the word is laughter. Laughter. How many of you who have had perhaps a stressful situation found it dissolved, even if it's temporarily, by laughter? Perhaps it's even unexpected laughter. You tune in perhaps to a program that really is funny, and you find yourself laughing and laughing, and just for those moments, do you realize that you're in that very interesting perception where your body chemically is altered, just while you're laughing, is altered, because the anxiety is gone for those moments. Did you realize that? I think most of you are realizing that laughter seems to then suppress fear and anxiety. And so many will turn to laughter in the programs that they watch and all of these things for an escape. And it works. But you don't want something temporary, do you? There is research, good research, that shows that the chemistry of the body is altered by laughing. And the fun part of this is what follows. Have you ever heard of laughter yoga? Here is an exercise by those like you who understand what I am talking about now, where groups of people will get together and laugh. And you would say, well, what is the stimulus to make them laugh? There's got to be some jokes. There has to be some situations. They've got to talk about something funny to get it going. And the answer is, no, they don't. And this was another discovery. If they all simply started laughing at nothing, and you'll say, well, you can't do that. Yes, you can. You can pretend. But when you start laughing, even though there wasn't anything funny around, something happens. Your body starts to generate a new chemistry of funny. And others around you will start laughing at you, and you with them, without a joke, without a situation. And all of you will be laughing, and you can do it for a very long time. And then you're laughing at one another, and you're laughing at the situation because your chemistry starts changing. That's a fact. What has happened since then is it's not necessarily simply relegated to yoga laughter. Mainstream has discovered it as well. There is a lineage of videos that started as long as a decade ago that has the same theme. And the theme is a man laughing on a train, or a yoga master entering the subway who is going to laugh and chuckle, and in that, he has everyone else laughing on the train within a few minutes. Now, how many of you ride a subway? And how much fun is that? Are the people laughing? You don't know them. The answer is no. You have all kinds of people with all kinds of problems, and you're in the subway. Can you imagine one person starts laughing, and then within a few minutes, they're all laughing. And as the other ones laugh, more laugh. And the whole subway or train car ends up hysterically laughing. Proven. And it's all over what you call your media, your tube media. And you can watch various degrees of production. In fact, even commercials. One manufacturer of a product decided it would suit them to do this and show it as a commercial. This is known. Laughter is infectious. If you laugh, your chemistry starts to change. If you make it something you'll do often and reasons for it, perhaps you'll laugh with the joy of your magnificence. Can you do that? Or the love that you feel. Can you do that? If you begin to laugh on a regular basis, dear ones, laughter and joy will change your chemistry, and it paves a road for you to see a light you never saw before. It helps you cross the bridge when we get there into the circle of 12. Laughter is number 3. It's real, it's in 4D, it's not hard, and it works. That's the message of today. It is an actual, scientifically proven fact that your laughter changes your chemistry. And you know it and you felt it. Because that then relieves you of the fear and the anxiety when you do this. Why not do it on a regular basis? Why not have it be that which you do every day? Why not be someone who's known to laugh? These things that I give you are very real. If you want a healing today, why don't you start with this one? And so it is. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive.
But it's time now for a brief meditation and a channel from Kryon. And so we ask you to take a moment and just allow yourself to come into a quiet space. Relax all the tension out of your body. Relax your face, relax your shoulders, relax your arms and hands, relax your legs, relax your knees, your calves, your feet. And just feel the connection with the energy of the earth beneath you. And allow yourself to feel a warm embrace from all those who are sharing this experience with you. And we'll send out a wave of loving hugs to everyone that is gathered. And stand by for the first channeled message from Kryon for the Healing Wednesday of 2021.
Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. I have said this before. There are so many who would ask, do those from the other side of the veil whom I represent, are they truly aware of what humanity is going through? And the answer is more than you know. And the reason is this, because you have separated us so completely, made us something that is on high and you are on low. You have put a barrier, a wall, often between the creative source and yourself. You can see the barrier very clearly when you look at the protocols and the doctrines of the many spirituality groups and doctrines and religions on the planet. There is so much worship and bowing down to that which you see as so sacred, but you don't include it as being anything that you are as well. Dear ones, we have said it before, you are a piece of the Creator. And this is the truth. Perhaps it is the largest truth that we have ever spoken. And we have spoken it for 30 years. There's no separation. We are so aware of what you're going through because we are going through it with you. Indeed, you are never alone. Indeed, you are dearly loved. Indeed, there is something between us that is more than just a relationship. Inside you, at the cellular level, you might even say at the most smallest important pieces of you, even the DNA and smaller, are multidimensional pieces of the Creator itself, made in His image. You've heard that. The image is love. All of you are the image of love. I would like to talk today about one of four things. It's a series for this month. And I'm going to call it The Four Faces of Fear. Now, right away, there will be those who are listening to this broadcast and saying, well, wait a minute, I'm not a subscriber, and that's going to exclude me from the other messages, and that is not so. Listen up. I told my partner years ago that every single channeling I do should be free, and that there should be a method to make them free for the world. As many channels as possible, as many channels that are recorded, should be given away, and they are. There is a place on my partner's website where you can go and hear everything that we have ever channeled. There is one channel per Healing Wednesday, and they will indeed go to this place. Eventually, you'll see them all. So do not feel excluded as I present number 1 of 4, because you can hear all 4 if you choose. The subject, the 4 faces of fear. I say faces because that's what you look at. I didn't say attributes because that gives it perhaps a little more emphasis. It's a face. What do you know about a face? Everything is a metaphor. Dear ones, do I have to tell you that again? Even in the channeling, even in the messages, even in the language you hear it, there are metaphors. I'll say many things that sound odd until you understand the metaphor. What do you know about a face? First of all, you recognize a face and you can see where a face is friendly or not. But every single face is changeable. You can smile, you can frown. The 4 faces of fear. Now, why would I talk about fear when we have the healing modalities that we present here, where the entire subject of the day is healing? Why would I talk about fear? It seems to be an opposite to healing. So I will tell you again, for all of these years we have been saying these things, and now it comes to a head, a point, a focus. Here is the statement. You should hear it yet again. The opposite of healing is fear. If you are fearful, dear ones, nothing that is presented in any of these programs truly can get around that. That's the face that you have chosen for yourself. That particular face, dear ones, is a face that will interrupt almost anything that we can give you. We can't get past fear. You can't get past fear. It stops it all. Kryon, are you really saying that there's a barrier that even with good health and with good nutrition and all those things? Yes. That's what I'm telling you. Because true healing is done with a consciousness and not objects and not simply remedies. It has to do with your consciousness agreeing with what you're doing in order to send your body messages of hope and joy, compassion and healing. And if you're afraid, it all simply stops at that wall called fear. 4 faces. I want to talk about the first one. It's the 3D one. It's the duality one. It's the most basic one. And there will be those of you who say it can't change. This cannot change. Oh, yes, it can. Survival. You are born with the fears that accompany survival. Intuitively. Born, fear of the dark. Fear, by the way, that you might be eaten. Now you'll say, wait a minute, we're not going to be eaten. Really? Because that fear goes from the old days of being afraid of being eaten by the Bengal tiger to being eaten by your peers or your situation or those around you or your competition. Do you see where I'm going? It's the fear of being eaten by that which you cannot control. There's more. The fear that you will not then survive because you are not perhaps good enough. These are basic survival instincts, you might say. A psychologist will say, that's correct. You come in with them. Any mother knows this. How long does it take for you to understand that within the child that you have, that you're looking at and that you love so much, They're all the things you never taught them. There's jealousy and rage and competition and greed and all of those basic instincts, the immaturity, no elegance yet. It's all there, and you didn't ask anything to them or teach anything to them to get them in that modality. It just came with the package, didn't it? So you know I'm right. Now what I'm going to tell you this. Now we're going to talk about solutions. First of all, a statement. Even though these things are instinctual and you come in with them, they are programs. That's all they are. Call them engrams, if you wish. They are stamped upon your psyche, and they are not hardwired. There's a difference. There's not really much that's hardwired except how your body functions. Everything else, especially in the consciousness, is a program. You come in with a legacy of the energy of the planet that supersedes you. All that has happened with low and high consciousness and duality for eons is stamped upon you, and you come in afraid. That is a program. And like every program that you've heard on these shows, all the things, it can be rewritten. It is rewritable. Interesting. Why does it show itself the way it does? It's almost like what you see, dear ones, with oil and water. You might have a glass of water and a little oil on it, and the oil stays on top. Let's say you're looking at the glass of water, which is a metaphor here of your consciousness when you arrive on the planet, and there's the oil representing all the negative things that's on top. It's only a fraction of the fluid, of the majesty, the joy, the compassion that is underneath that oil that's just floating on top. You got to get through the oil. You got to scrape it off. You can rewrite it. But it floats on top, and that's the first thing that you experience, and you got to get through. I want to tell you a story. It's a story about a child. The child will remain nameless, a little girl. I want to tell you what she experienced and what she did, because this is a wise little girl. You might say that this little girl kind of knew how things worked and figured it out for herself. There was one night when she went to bed. And when she woke up in the middle of the night, for whatever reason, she looked over and she got chills, because in the chair that was in her room was a horrible creature. She could just make out almost every single shade of its face, of its body, and it was just looking at her, and it wasn't moving. It was just staring at her. She was so afraid. Afraid of the dark, afraid of what was in the dark, of course. All these instinctual things that she had. Her mom came into the room because she was whimpering, turned on the light, and she realized that the monster was a clump of used clothing that she had simply put in the chair. That her imagination and her fear had created all of the things that she was certain of that were going to leap out of the chair and eat her, or worse. And all of these things she realized were there. When her mother turned off the light, interestingly enough, the monster returned in her mind, and she realized that this was something that was going to happen over and over. It was impossible for her to rewrite this. It was instinctual. And what she did, I want you to listen carefully. She created an angel. Whether it was a clump of clothes or whether it's something she hung by the door, that superseded anything that was dark. And when she went to sleep and when the light was off, she could look at that and say, "Dear angel," and she gave it a name, "let nothing inappropriate be presented to me tonight in either my dreams or my room, because I'm protected. What a wise little girl. How about you? That was all a metaphor, and that was about a child. How about you right now? Can you create something that says, I am magnificent, and there is nothing that has come in that is more powerful than my magnificence, nothing that has come in with my birth that I would call fear of darkness or any of the phobias. It's all rewritable. And I am rewriting it because my magnificence will shine through anything dark. Does that work? Oh, yes. Just like the little girl. It works so well because you are creating you. Rewriting the things that are inappropriate, that have come in, that do not reflect you at all. Don't reflect your magnificence at all. That's just the beginning of what you can do. As I describe the other three fears, you're going to find a similarity of solution in every single one of them. But they are all in your control. That's the magnificent human that I know. And so it is. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive. Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. This is a time, dear ones, for you to be in a state which you would call meditation. It's a time where you dedicate your consciousness to altering the normal state that you would have to receive information, to be quiet, to breathe in a different way, to be relaxed, and let information flow. And the information that may flow today may surprise you. For those who have come upon this channeling and don't know what it is, this is one of 5. And it corresponds to that which is a study of what I have described as the Lemurian teaching wheel. Far more information will be given about the specifics and the academia of the teaching of the Pleiadians to those on an island which we call them Lemurian. In an early time where the slate was completely clean of concepts of God, of spirituality, of beauty, of consciousness, and they could be written on those clean slates of the children. And it begins. And the question would be, what is it that those from the stars who have been through everything for more than 1 million more years than you've been here, what is it that they would tell you? And as you get in to the items one by one that I've given you, specifically wording that they have taught one by one, I want you to put yourself in the place of those who decided that would be taught. You don't talk about it much, and we don't speak of it that much, but way before one planet came to seed another in the beauty and the appropriateness of God's plan, they had to develop what is it they can teach. What is it that they can teach a mind that is not near as developed as theirs? And how can they teach it the best way? And what is it that they would want to emphasize and yet keep the free choice that you were given? And before they could ever teach, there had to be many, many generations of humans so that they would all have the alteration of chromosome 2, the fusing of 24 into 23, so that they would all be the same. Before the teaching could ever begin, chromosome 2 was the one that would absorb it. You see, the Pleiadians are going to want to talk about what's the favorite subject of theirs. A beautiful, majestic, loving, creative source at the center of everything. And that's where they started, dear ones. They didn't teach the children about any of the academia, about any of the spokes or the sizes. They went to the wheel and pointed to the center. And they said, let's talk about what's there. And the center, which we are labeling the hub, is the most beautiful thing that exists. It's a concept that you have. But like children, you have a concept. You don't know. You don't know. Not really. What could possibly be God? Spirit. If you ask those on the planet, what is God? Where is God? How does it work? You'll get as many answers as you have humans you ask. Right now, in the infancy of your consciousness about God and the planet, all you have done is to agree that there must be one. That's all you've done. And that is fairly recent. For many of your civilizations had come to this conclusion before, but always reverted to many. If there are many kinds of civilizations, then there has to be many gods. Over 80% of this planet believes in one God. You are ripe and ready then for the discussion and the consciousness and the realization of what that might mean. And the Pleiadians knew very much that this would be the evolution that you would take because it was theirs as well. So they had to teach something that was pre-evolutionary, if you think about it, to children knowing they would grow up and make mistakes like you have. And yet what they taught you, they also know would stick in your Akash so that it was ready. And if you had the opportunity and the earth evolved like they had thought it would or might, if you had the opportunity, the Akash would eventually awaken to a greater truth. So rather than an earth that sits around and argues about that one God and says to the other civilization, and if you don't worship it this way, we're going to kill you. A little bit of a dichotomy, I would say. You don't have it yet. You don't understand it yet. And then the other parts of the civilization make the one God so human it's dysfunctional. But it's still one God. You see, the evolution of the consciousness of what it actually is a mystery to you. But slowly, dear ones, civilization after civilization and culture after culture on this planet will start understanding and realizing a consciousness of oneness. In other words, if there is one God, there has to be a oneness of all things because God created all things. Eventually it will occur to humanity that there is no separation, and that to separate God into parts of belief is actually childlike. Then they will start to understand and realize that the many religions in the planet can still exist as long as they are compassionate with one another, understanding of one another, and can look at one and say, well, we have our way and you have yours. Isn't it beautiful that we can both love God? And you can stand and hold hands in different outfits, in different ways, and different symbols, and different beliefs, and even different prophets. And you can say they all emanated from one place. Isn't it grand? Perhaps there'll be one song to sing eventually where you hold hands in many religions with many outfits and many symbols can all hold hands and sing one song together that is so powerful that you weep with the beauty of understanding we came from somewhere else. And in the DNA, more and more you discover that compassion and the teaching and the original information from the source is there. Some will never need the teaching wheel because out will come an intuitive energy right from your Akash, right from that which was implanted in you for this time. Wisdom implanted in you that you haven't seen yet. It's going to happen all over the planet. It already is. There is already a preparation for the idea and the concept that maybe, just maybe, you will meet extraterrestrials who are gentle and benign and smarter and wiser than you. That is just a seed of a beginning idea you simply haven't had before. Because you've made them all dysfunctional like you. Every ET that's supposed to have come to this planet is out to get you. And that, dear ones, as we've said before, is human nature. You see, that's the story of you. These are the things that are starting to change. There is benevolence coming. And the benevolence is human to human. It's an honoring of human to human. And we have told you before that as you look backward and as your grandchildren look into the past and they start to learn about history, they're going to turn to you and say, "You're kidding. You did that?" Everything before 2012, you might even label the barbaric years because of what is starting to happen. And we've told you yet again that these changes cannot happen overnight because humans don't like change. And the kind of changes that are consciousness and benevolence and peaceful and gentle that are starting to come means that some of the ones that aren't that way have got to break down, if you've noticed. They are. Imagine a beautiful kind of government that you put together and you're so proud of, and then you come and you find out, well, what is the attribute of that government? Well, we argue. That's the best you got? Yes. And what do you accomplish? Almost nothing. And why is that? Because we argue. And you say, well, maybe there's something better. And we've talked about that as well. New ideas of making things work in a way that no one has seen fit to even think about are coming your way. How you live will also create what you discover. And the inventions that are coming, we've told you, will change your life in ways you need to have it changed soon. And all of that is not just consciousness. Many of those things come from the climate changes we've told you are coming. All of these things to refresh the life in the ocean. This planet is revitalizing itself. And dear ones, you are at the forefront of that. And there are those who are listening and say, this is a crazy guy talking. He thinks things are getting better. And we say to you yet again, examine the filter where you look at yourselves and others. And examine why it is that all the time, anything you look at, the glass is always half empty. And you'll find that everywhere because that's the human nature that used to be. That's who you used to be. And the past that was is always what you carry as history and throw upon the future and say, well, as it was before, yet it will be again, and here we go. And it's not going to get any better. And that's what you're facing, dear human. You are facing right now an idea, a paradigm that you're going to have to break that says that we know what's going to happen because we know the past. Well, this weekend is a study of a past you don't know. And that past is filled with what the Pleiadians decided to teach you first, and what to concentrate on first, the hub that says you are dearly loved, you are born magnificent, get with it. And everything that isn't that is wrong. That perhaps you ought to look at things again from a different standpoint and sit for a moment and be quiet and breathe and say to Spirit, is this true? Am I really loved that much? And then feel the chills that say, it took you long enough to ask. And then there will be those who start to receive the information that is in their Akash right from the stars. And then the idea, perhaps, that you came from somewhere else and that you actually have Pleiadian DNA will not be so strange. And people will not go running from you when you tell them what you believe. Because science will start to prove it. And then there will be that place, a turning point, where science must get involved in spirituality. Because the study of all things on this planet is the study of how the Creator did it. You can't go around discussing an invention and then telling young people, well, we can't tell you who did it. Don't mention the name. Just study what it is. And now they're going to reveal what happened. It had to be from something bigger than we expect. You're here on purpose. We still don't know why, the scientists will say, but now we have evidence that you came from somewhere else. Do you see how the religions of the planet may have to rewrite some things in order to be more galactic and less gullible? Do you see how God gets much bigger and more benevolent than ever? And this is what we are starting to teach. So as the day begins and the channelings continue, they will be subject-driven by what you decide, dear ones, and what you come up with in your discussions, dear ones. And that is the way it should be. Your free choice is important. And so it is. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time-sensitive. Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. It's not just symbology that the 1-1 is a new start. There are many ways of interpreting the numerology of the 1-1. One way is this: it's always the same master number, 11. And 11 is indeed enlightenment. So you might say that every single first of the year, every single 1-1 event, if you have one, is going to have the same kind of an energy. And that would be a start, a new start. It's a 1. Not only new beginnings, it's a double 1. It's also, of course, a master number, which means that it is very important, more than just regular numbers. There are some numbers, however, that stick out. One of them is a 5. You will probably hear more about that later, and that means change. This last year, 2020, is a year that we have spoken of over and over. My partner has been questioned about it, and it's because of what you know as the virus. There will be those in the future who remember 2020 very, very vividly, stick in their mind for the time that everything changed. We have told you in the past, many channels, about what this has meant and why it has occurred and why now. We've also challenged you to think about this, that this particular virus, the way it was treated and what occurred, is really out of place. Viruses have been here for a long time, some of them very active, some of them very dangerous. You've had some of them, and you know even their names. You have up to 20,000 people in the air all of the time flying between countries. What are the odds and the chances that you never had a pandemic until now? It's completely out of place. It's counterintuitive to everything you had in place or you've experienced. Your planet has been ripe for this all along. And yet this was the year, this 2020 year. And it started early, and now it's ending. People have said, Kryon, if you could see what's in the field, what's next? And I'm going to give this year a name in a moment. And the name I'm going to give it will tell a lot, because of what I'm going to tell you is in the field. The first question so many ask is, say, when is it going to be over? Because even as we speak on 1/1, it's still there. The answer is, in 2021, indeed, the light will come on. The end of the tunnel will be revealed. There will be more issues. There will be more conspiracies. There will be more difficulties. But eventually, you will have a new normal. That's coming, dear ones, and you know it. If you take a look at the astrology, which almost always gives hints with human consciousness, human activities, a roadmap that you can either look at or not as you choose. You take a look at the months of March and April as almost a coming out party from 2020. So those are the times I'm predicting. It will start then making the change from the old normal to the new. And the new normal is going to really be something, dear ones. You've learned a lot in 2020, and so far you really don't know what you've learned because you haven't seen the discoveries you'll make. And the discoveries you're going to make are multiple. When you stop the world, and you stop economies, and you change everything, it starts to expose things that never were exposed. Because when you stop that which always was and always worked a certain way, those kinds of things seems to float to the surface. Especially when you have a civilization that talks among themselves on a regular basis. We talk about social media. We talk about the ways you communicate where very, very little can remain secret. And here come the secrets. This was happening all along, or that was happening all along, but when you stopped it, you didn't see it, and now you do. And your reaction will be, it's got to change. You've already seen some of the changes and some of the reactions and some of the civil unrest of things that are already in the works that will not then go back to the way they were. Dear ones, there are a lot of things that are going to change now and stay changed. This is good news. All because of 2020. One of the biggest ones, the beginning of the revelation of the virus. How it came to be. You still don't have the story. Not the real one. What happened after that? Was it treated correctly or not? Will you do the same thing the next time? Is a full lockdown what you should do, or should you simply protect those who need protected? All of these kinds of things will be a revelation. Wisdom, the way to work it again if it happens. It will imprint some people with fear. Get ready for that. I've said in the past that there will be those who will wear masks for the rest of their life because now they're afraid of all things, every germ, every bacteria, because it has had that imprint on them, and they've lost friends because of it. This is something that's going to carry over in a way that counselors will be working with for a long time. But the biggest things that you're going to see are the revelations of truths you didn't know. I have said this before, and I said it when this first began. Governments may change because of what you're going to find out. Secrets being revealed. Dysfunctions starting to show. You might say there's dysfunction everywhere all the time, and it's going to continue. That is what is going to be revealed as different. You're going to want solutions. It's a time of solution. But the name I'm going to give for this year, I always name every year, dear ones, is revelation. I sat in a chair in 1999 in December and named the year of 2020 the year of change. This 2021, is going to be the year of revelation, as you'll see. There's going to be a lot of good things that will reveal themselves, not necessarily to be good as they be revealed, but as good because of the solutions you're going to make. A lot is going to come out of COVID that you didn't expect, that will change this planet. This happened, dear ones, after 2012, during the new energy, during a new consciousness, so that you could see things finally for what they were and make the appropriate adjustments. Consciousness is starting to raise, and regular humanity is starting to raise the bar of what they will want and expect and create, throwing away what doesn't work and keeping what does. It's a good time to celebrate this new year of enlightenment. And so it is. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive. Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. My partner has learned to step aside quickly. It comes from being safe. In past energies, especially with those healers, readers, channelers, the time of preparation is to clear away the filters that say you're not safe. You're not safe to change your countenance, to go wide open, to receive. And so there's a moment of time where you work with that, which some have called the fears, the filters. And so you can see by the training that I have given you so far, the training that says this, that even in this new energy, you're evolving. And that evolution means this: you're safe. In times where you were not safe, you walk into a room that wasn't cleared. Don't gasp. It wasn't cleared, it didn't have to be, because the clearing was accomplished by those who walked in. That's new. It means that the evolution of the human consciousness has already begun. You didn't have to wait to be reincarnated into a planet to capture that which you are evolving into. That will happen. But the old souls, the Lemurians, the ones who are filled with purpose and awakening, are starting to evolve to a degree where you are starting to clear everything as you walk. Some of you are feeling it. Some of you are questioning it because it's different and it's new. What is it you can't do? And there would be those in here who would give a list. Get your pencil out, they'd say. Make the paper pretty big. And they start writing. And this is common, dear ones, and there's nothing wrong with it, because this has been the old energy of humanity. The list of what you cannot do and what bothers you is a lot longer than what you can do. And that is an evolution step for you to move from the one paradigm to another, realizing that what it is you cannot do, and the list is not static, it's not forever, it's not really you, it's just you in an old energy. And you've carried it for so long. that you have trouble seeing the new you. And yet so many of you are the new you. And that is defined literally by the things you've dropped that no longer bother you, or the things you've walked through that enable you to do things you never could do before. Simple things. Evolution of the human spirit and the soul and the consciousness comes with some caveats. And we've spoken of them before, but I want to tell you specifically about the higher self. This is not a long message, but it's a potent one. When you think of things that evolve, you think of a slowness, and you think of a protocol. Turn that page, wipe it away, because it's not the way consciousness works. Consciousness is almost logarithmic, if you want to look at a scientific mathematical term, in its acceleration. One thing leads to another, enhances something else, which then explodes in an awakening, and you move on. It sets the stage for things to come. So evolution, as you have seen it in the past in biology, what you think it is, would be slow, and it goes in layers, and it stays the same until something else happens. It stays the same until something else happens. Consciousness doesn't. When you start awakening to a higher consciousness, it then propels other things in your life because you awaken to one. The one then begats another, which begats 2 to 4 to 8. More than that, a logarithmic scale is not simply doubling. What is it I'm talking about? Where are you going with this, Kryon? I would like to tell you this, that elusive higher self is very much in reach. For those of you who are starting to evolve with a higher vibration of thinking. And that higher vibration of thinking starts with this. I'm magnificent. And that list of what I cannot do is going to be over there, and I think I'll burn it. I think I'll start a list of what I can do and forget the things that I cannot do. And that starts a process of improvement. Improvement of thought, improvement of personality, because you're free. The things you cannot do on the list is like chains. It's a burden for human beings. And you'll say, well, wait a minute, this is not my choice. I can't do these things because they're just part of my biology. Really. And you don't have any choice on your biology, right? No one's ever told you perhaps that you're in charge of your cells, or is that just too much for you to believe? What I'm telling you is there's nothing here that is not changeable. Even how you age is controllable. That starts to be enhanced. What are you going to have someday that is an anomaly, and we've talked about it before, and that is that there's going to be a group who start to live a lot longer than regular human beings. And that group of groups, they have a name. And if I haven't given the name before, I'm going to give it to you now. Lemurians. Because they figured it out. And they start to take the core teaching and enhance it to their lives and talk to the cellular structure, get rid of the lists that they cannot do, understand that they are God, and their higher self is there as a helper, and the higher self begins to get closer and closer to that which some of you have called incorrectly the lower self. It starts to ally with your corporeal consciousness and body. The higher self becomes one with you in a way you didn't expect, faster than you could expect, and the results of it, longer life. Better thinking, smiling more, cheerfulness. We're going to get there. In this study today, we're going to get there. For those of you who are listening to this, have no idea what I'm talking about. We're talking about a study. And And for those in the room, I'll tell you this, that the revelation that comes soon has to do with the inner child. All of the things that I'm speaking of now are not just doable, they're in the field for you. That is to say that the potential of everything I've just spoken of has your name on it. And yet the human being in an old energy will say, it sounds too hard. I've tried this before. It's hard to break habits. You're right. It takes something a little different than wishing, a little different than coming to a seminar. It takes you sitting with you and making statements and coming to a realization that you can change everything. And then there are those who say, it sounds good and I'm too old. And that's a filter. And that's a filter you're given every day on your broadcasts and media that say when you reach a certain age, you're hobbled and you cannot do this, therefore you need this substance and that. It's everywhere in your culture, dear ones. It's planned obsolescence of humanity, telling you how old you are and then, therefore, how you function. Not to a Lemurian. An old soul awakening to a process that is not just spiritual, but makes sense, then will be able to control their own cellular structure, their biology, dropping things that don't work, living longer, because consciousness can do that. And that doesn't mean you have to be spiritual. It really doesn't. But it combines with spiritualness, because that's the light. That's the reason. That's the love. And that then propels it forward. Listen, there are many human beings that are extending their lives by these very processes who would never be in a room and like this, or never listen to a channel like this, because it works. But then you combine it with this accelerated higher self, and suddenly all the cells in the body start to vibrate different. They start to listen to you, and your affirmations start to work. And they work better than they ever have worked before. And it then gets better. It's not linear. Once you make up your mind that you're not going to try, but you're going to be, and it's going to work for you, once you're there, the process begins. And you're not too old. And the things start to drop away that would bother you, that you had all your life. The things that you think are ingrained in you, that you are, that goes there. Is the name. I won't say it. And part of that is the list that says, I'm too old. Or it hasn't happened before. Or people told me I can't. Or whatever. Perhaps that's why you're here, to hear the potential. This is not the rest of your life. How you are in this room is not the rest of your life. That's why you're here. To understand that the teaching wheel, in the essence of the very existence of it, is core teaching that says you are magnificent and you can be that which others say you cannot be. Why do you want to be what you are defined to be by a culture that has low energy? Have you ever thought that? Have you ever figured that out? Have you ever really thought about where's love in there? Where is compassion in there? The teaching wheel is core information that says you're born magnificent, and it gets better from there. The teaching wheel battles that which you call duality, which is the lack of oneness or the choice of plus and minus, of light and dark, which you all have, and starts to enhance the training that you can choose a light that will extend your life and change your chemistry. There are those who think that spiritual things are pretty heady. Worship, love of God, all of these things. And you get ready for it, and you group for it, and you dress for it, and you go to a building for it. And then it happens, and then you come home and you undress for it. And you go away from the building, and then you're somebody else. Not understanding that spiritualness is your acceptance of God within. 24/7, not just the seminar. How many are you ready for that? Or really believe it? Or really believe that you can be someone else? Typically, the ones who are awakening as old souls now, demographically, are in midlife or beyond. And midlife is defined by your culture. Why don't you start defining it? How long you can live joyfully, without pain, without disease, without anomalies, even perhaps without the way you were born. All of it is changeable. Science is starting to come along with epigenetics, an unbelievable idea that actually your genetics don't control who you are, that you control who you are. And that the controlling factors hit the receptors that are environmental, which includes food, and then the big one, consciousness. You can change that which you perceive you are by how you think. That's science. Now, multiply that by 100, because the higher self gets involved with direction and intuition, love, compassion, holding your hand all the way and saying, listen, this is really true, and it's different than you thought, and you're not too old. There are those in here who are looking for answers, and there are some very simple issues: grief, pain, fear, very basic things. And I will tell you, dear ones, you're never alone in any of these, and every single one is solvable. To so many degrees, they're solvable. With time, they're solvable. And even the blackness that some of you may look at, I know who's listening here. Even the ones who believe they're dying, I know who's listening here. You're not, unless you believe what currently your cells are telling you, or currently what society is telling you, or currently what the darkness around you wants you to believe. But the higher self will come forward if you let it, and start recalibrating, realigning, and creating light in your life. And that's what it is to find God within, dear human being. That's what you're studying today. That's it for now. And so it is. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive. Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. We continue from a moment ago. I want to establish the energy in this room is precious. And it's precious no matter if you feel it's precious or not. It's precious because it is. And it's free choice for the human to find something that is elevated beyond what they expect. It's free choice for the human being to go beyond that which perhaps they've inherited of what they believe they should think. I want to talk about that. The preciousness is a compassion that is soul compassion, soul coherence. It's all of those things combined when you consider what might be in the room because you're here. You have a mistaken idea that Spirit, God, Source, or whatever would send a plethora of angels to warm the place up so you could come and celebrate. And you don't know. Made in His image. And the image is divinity and love and compassion and the ability to do marvelous things. That's made in his image. And you've heard it all your life. That's who you are. And so I'm going to project this in a way I haven't before. Dear humanity, dear ones in this room, dear listeners, your reality is what you inherited. I'll say the word, you have synthesized a reality that you've inherited from your parents, from their parents, from their parents, of what everything does. The reason why you're here, your lifespan, what you can do, what you can't do, how you should act, what's going to happen. All of it. Inherited. And what you continue to do is to synthesize that reality. One generation tells the other generation who they are, what might happen, and where you're going. And I don't know if you've ever really thought about it. You are a product of what your parents have said. And from the very beginning, they start telling you what humans do and what they don't do and what's proper and what's not and how long you live. They give you the whole paradigm of what they were told and what their parents told them. And when I say you synthesize it, I say it because that's not exactly right. You see, the human is bigger than that. That's the 33% that I've talked about before, that your DNA simply accepts and works with. Easily catching disease, easily doing all manner of things. You weren't built that way. That's not who you are. Oh, you are so much more. Did you know in a channel that we had in the past, we even told you that your lifespan is 2-3 times what you think it is. But because you have synthesized what it should be, you believe it. And therefore that becomes your reality. I have objections from those who are logical and intellectual that said, wait a minute, Kryon, stop the channel. Because we believe in science, measuring, statistics. Not the energy that you talk about, not the 33%, nothing. We believe because we've measured lifespan of thousands of human beings. They become data points. We've seen the bell-shaped curve. We know how long humans live. You're living a little longer today because of nutrition than you were before. It's science. You can't say that humans were designed to live 2 or 3 times that long. Look at the facts. And here's my answer. And I hope I make it acceptable and believable. You've carefully plotted the data points that you plot because every single one of them you created. And in the end, you come up with a chart and you calling it science, and it's a map of your own dysfunction. And you present it as proof. That is a synthesized reality. I told you before, I said that your lifespan is much higher than that. And who's the first who's going to go for it and discover it and claim it and realize that consciousness is linked to it? And what you believe starts to become the reality, not what you've been taught. All of you have been through a major paradigm shift in your life called childhood. There's another one that you are facing. A paradigm shift that is going to bring you out of your inherited culture. And there will be those of you who come out of it and those of you who won't go there. Because it's too uncomfortable to even consider. What was it like when you were a child? Your reality was protected. You weren't paying mortgages. You weren't doing any of these things, dear ones. You were a child. And in that, there was a time when you grew up. That's a paradigm change. When you started to take the responsibility, when your hormones started to change, when the chemistry, your size, all of those things, a metamorphosis. You've been through this. Yet, in that one, it was natural. Your parents held your hand all the way, and you were there. Or those around you held your hand all the way. So many of you can remember the first time you heard somebody say that you were a woman or a man, and how special that was. A metamorphosis out of childhood. There's a famous scripture that says, when I was a child, I spoke as a child, I understood as a child, I thought as a child. But when I became an adult, I put away childish things. And it's scriptural because it's metaphoric to awakening to a higher consciousness of understanding. The history that you have called your reality is like the childish things that you're going to put away when you start realizing that there is so much more. So much more. The question always is, what's there? How do I get there? How long will it take? What am I facing? But before you even go there, I want to give you a little story. I like to tell stories. And I like to tell them as though you were a child. And I tell the story to show you the profundity of who you are. You won't forget the story. You might forget the channel. You won't forget the story. In today's world of modern animation and storytelling, there's often what you would call cartoons in the old days, where many of the personalities are machines. Cars will have their own personalities. No humans around, just the machines. And so that's where we're going, into a child's story of Johnny Boing Boing. He was a machine. Now, machines aren't that bright, and they're not that intellectual. He was just happy to be here. But he kept jumping up and jumping up. Boing, boing, boing. And what Johnny knew about himself as a machine was this: that he was powerful and he was fast. And he spent his life with other little machines, all happy, all working together. But they would race occasionally. Oh, Johnny Boing Boing, he won every single time. I mean, he didn't just win. He blew them away. And it was fun. It was fun to race. In those days, on this place, there weren't a lot of mirrors. He couldn't really see. But he was told he had a set of wheels that made the difference in his power and his speed, different than any other of the vehicles. And that the amazing power of his engine would go and would blow all of them away. They didn't even want to race anymore. Made him a judge. Because he would always win. Cute little Johnny Boing Boing. Always leaping up. Boing, 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 boing. Didn't understand that part either, but he tried his best. And as the story is told in this mythology, it goes like this. They all said, well, you know, we don't last that long. Machines really don't. But it's really okay because we go to machine heaven. And when we are then disassembled and we're no longer functional because we're old, we get rebuilt. In machine heaven, our parts are sometimes reused, sometimes we get new. We come back as new machines. It's good news. But you're going to meet the machine God, the creator God, the one who made all of us. Beautiful, they said. And as the mythology went, When you stop being a machine and you go into this machine heaven, you're going to find out things you didn't know. There's going to be a review of your life that is not something that is judgmental. It's beautiful. It's like a book. They'll make a book. In time, little Johnny Boing Boing, indeed, got old, couldn't go very fast, and realized it was time. Wasn't long before, indeed, he was at the foot of the machine God. Beautiful. What a feeling. He was so happy to be there. He saw all manner of things he didn't understand there. And in front of him, this big golden machine. Johnny Boing Boing. So good to see you again. We love you. Johnny said, yes, I was told you'd say that. It's so beautiful. Can I go back again? And the voice said, oh yeah. We'll get you all polished up and we'll put you back in service. But Johnny, I have to ask you a question. And Johnny said, what is it? Little Johnny Boing Boing, what is it? What is it? He said, well, you didn't really fulfill your full potential, you know. And little Johnny looked up and said, oh, I was the fastest thing on the planet. I beat them all. I could race faster than any of them. And the voice said, yes, but Johnny, you're a Boeing 747. Who are you, dear ones, really? You are designed to fly with peace and compassion and soar beyond any consciousness that you've ever inherited, any of them. You are designed to go way past the synthesization of who you were told you could be. You were designed to work together corporally like you never have ever seen or ever thought you would. You were designed to be protective against any disease on the planet. Did you know that? But all of this takes a human being to step out of the synthesis, to step out of the cultural inheritance of what you were told you were. And that sometimes is an issue, a problem, a trouble, scary to some. How do you do it? We'll sit here and say yet again, the first step is to understand you can fly. The first step is to understand that you're not who you were told and to cognize it. And that is to say, know it at the intuitive core level. I am not who I was told. And at that, there is a beginning of discovery, self-discovery. Absolutely unique for every single human being. That's why I'm not going to give you step 2 or 3 or 4. Because it'll be different for all of you. How long does it take? What do you find? What's next? Don't you understand that because you are a unique creature, having lived all the lives you've lived, there's no one like you. No one. So the progress you will make in the discovery of self is unique, totally. It's not like anyone else. You can't make a rule book that's generic and one pill fits all. It won't work. But here's some magic I want to tell you about. You make an assumption anytime that you are told by a guru, by a channeler, by a leader, by a teacher, you make an assumption you're going to have to climb some steps, you're going to have to do some things to get there. You may then decide, well, I don't want to really go to that trouble. I'm kind of happy where I am. You know, it's not something that I need to do. And here's what I want to tell you. Follow the logic. If you were designed to fly, a metaphor for the peace that's possible, the compassion, the wisdom, the consciousness, if that's your design, it is already there. It's in you. You don't have to go find it. You don't have to go ask for it. You have to go pay for it. It's there. It's already there. Now I want you to pause for a moment in this energy. I'm going to give you another metaphor, and I've given it before. And that is of the rest of your body. That enhancement that is coming is sitting there with its hand out saying, coming or not. Coming or not. It's already there. You, your soul, your innate, your intuition, your Akash, all involved in an illuminated, high consciousness human being, a transition, a paradigm that is already ready to take. The hard part, believing it. The next hard part, stepping off the cliff. And when you do, you're going to be caught very firmly in the hands of the Creator of Spirit. The metaphor is clear. Dear ones, you're taken care of. You're never alone. All of these things that you're looking at, the next step in your evolution, the change of paradigm, all of these metaphors is you discovering you more than you ever have before. And one thing leads to another because you're going to be pulled through that hole, that old hole, that old paradigm, by an intelligent you who has always been there, ready for you, standing beside you. You're not going to have to climb the stairs alone or discover things for yourself. It's there. Oh, you just have to take away the dark cloud that covers it. Believe it's there. Does it sound too simple? It's never simple for a human being to change themselves. You like the paradigm you're in a little too much. But this is what the old soul was designed for. The caterpillar who turns into the butterfly. This is what you are, designed and ready, and the timing is now. Go from this place, understanding things you didn't before, even a little bit, even a little. You might pause tonight when you're alone to yourself, dear Spirit, I heard the channel. I believe it. I want to move into those places that are new for myself. Help me to do it, step at a time. I'm going, I'm ready, I'm there. And then stand back. If you meant it, things start happening. You don't have to reinvent it. You don't have to climb the mountain. The mountain will come to you. This is the message, and it always has been. And it always will be in these days of a changing humanity. And so it is.